That was Burkett's first catch of the night. On 1st and 10 from the 20. Kelly going for Harmon in the end zone. Touchdown.
Jim Kelly touchdown from week 2 of 1989. Bills Broncos. If you haven't been listening, that should tell you a little bit about the vibe of the show so far. Old stadium memories. That was Howard's first game as a fan in the stadium, as he wrote in. That game, by the way, is in full on YouTube. How many games are in full on YouTube? The Bills lost that game, by the way. They lost this game against Elway and Monday Night Football. That, by the way, is Al Michaels, right?
I think so.
It sounds like Al Michaels.
Sifting through the highlights of this game,
which would make sense.
It was a rough game for the Bills.
Kelly
was getting beaten up, and the defense just did not look the way that you would think they would. Like, this is the year before they go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And it just didn't look like the same team at all.
Yeah, Michael started Monday Night Football, I thought it was in the 90s, but I'm wrong. 86. 86 was his first year, so that would have been Michael's. So we're just sharing some old stadium memories. If I go on, like, how many... I know the Ronnie Harmon game is on YouTube because I have a story about that. I watched the Ronnie Harmon game, Bills-Browns, I think AFC Championship, in 80. This is probably the same season, 89. Thinking in my head, they win the game. This is how they get to the first Super Bowl. And this was years ago. And as the game is progressing, I'm starting to doubt whether I actually know what happens in this game. It looks like the Bills are going to lose it. So I'm thinking, am I wrong? And I didn't look it up. I'm like, I'm going to watch this game because I don't really know what happened. So it's like I'm experiencing it for the first time, which meant I also experienced the Ronnie Harmon drop. Almost like, almost very, loosely, like a Bills fan would have in the moment. Watching it without knowing that it's coming, without knowing if they win or lose that game, there's the... That doesn't happen at Highmark Stadium anyway. But there's a lot of old Bills games. Like, I bet this Vikings game I mentioned from last hour, which is like my first experience that I remember in the stadium, that game is not in full on YouTube. But you can find a lot of these old 80s and 90s games from the Kelly era. 803-0550 is the phone number. If you want to get in on your first stadium memory or your favorite that nobody really talks about as kind of a deep pull, taking your phone calls on that this morning as we head into the final season at Highmark Stadium. Let's go to Mike in Pennsylvania. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Yeah, no, I've been to probably 30, 40 Buffalo Bills games. I got 3 that really stand out in my eyes. The first one that stands out was the Monday night against Dallas. That place was electric. We were leading all the way into the end of the game, and, Nick Folk kicks a field goal. There's a timeout. He has a re-kick, kicks it. I mean, it went from electric, 110%, all the way down to you can hear a pin drop in the stadium. And I think a bar actually burnt down on the corner lot, or something was happening with the bar down there. So that one stands out. Second one stands out that I was at the game with the New York Giants and Buffalo. Marshawn was playing in that game. That's the year that the Giants went on a Super Bowl run.
Yes.
And it was, we were beating them. I want to say it was 21-7 going into the half. The weather was weird. It was, kickoff, it was like maybe 40, 45. And then by the end of the game, it was raining, it was sleeting, snowing, and it was like 20 degrees. So it was miserable, that game. And then my all-time favorite Bills game is I have the pleasure of knowing Kelly and Thurman and Andre. I was just with Andre a couple weeks ago at his golf tournament down in Allentown. Mm-hmm. So I got to know all these guys growing up, but then I got to watch a game in Thurman's box, and that was a weird game too. That was I think it was Jeff Toole was the quarterback. It was against the Chiefs.
Yes, I was there.
And it was a crazy game too, and then we ended up losing that game. So all of these games that I'm mentioning, we all lost the game.
Yeah, that Giants game is that Ahmad Bradshaw goes for a long touchdown? Am I remembering the right Bills Giants game? That's 2012 maybe, I think.
Yep. And I was with the Giants fan, and he didn't even know who Ahmad's number was 44. He came running at us. He goes, "Look, I don't even know who this guy is." And then they just it's almost like a switch clicked in their season, and they just took off. And I think they only lost one game to the Patriots, and the rest of the way, and that was a magical season for them. But I saw something click right at halftime with those guys. So
yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Mike, for the call on all these. I can't find this Bills-Giants game though. I know, man, what year would it be? They go to the Super Bowl in what years? 2008 and 2012, right? Have the years right on that? No, 07. It's the 07 season. Does anyone else do that? I always have problems with the season and the year. I really just wish it would be the year. It never is. Like when the Commanders actually got in trouble for this a couple years ago because on their logo they put the year the Super Bowl was played, not the season, on their mark, and they had to change it. Like for me, the game happened in the year.
Right.
Like
I hate that.
I like them when they do it that way.
I do too. I need everything to be easy. That needs to be easier.
All right. So here it is. 07, December 23rd. Bills lose 38-21 to the Vikings. The Bills were 7-7 going into the game. So there probably was a graphic before showing the 9,000 things the Bills needed to make the playoffs, because that was basically the drawn era in Week 17.
Second last
or Week 15.
In the Hunt graphic on there somewhere at some point.
There's Ahmad Bradshaw, 88-yard touchdown run. Look at this game. Eli completed 7 passes.
Whoa.
And they scored 38 points. Eli Manning, 7 of 15 for 111 yards and 2 interceptions. Sounds like an Eli game. Brandon Jacobs, 25 for 143 and 2 touchdowns. Ahmad Bradshaw, 17 for 151 and a touchdown. Whew. Eli, look at this guy. This is Eli Manning, who's going to make the Hall of Fame, and it's going to be the biggest disaster in the Hall of Fame's history. In this game against the Bills, he wins. This goes down as a win for him. Perfect 500 record, by the way. He's exactly 500 for his career. Maybe he should be one game below. He completes 7 passes, throws 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, and had 5 fumbles.
Whoa.
Has Josh Allen had 5 fumbles in 2 seasons? Eli had 5 fumbles in this one game.
Wow.
I'm knocking on wood for you right now, just to be safe. Just, we don't want to jinx anything here.
With what? With Josh?
With the fumbles.
He's fine. He's fine.
I don't know.
He's
whenever someone says
jinxes.
that, I just get so superstitious about things.
He's beyond jinxes. Yeah. Let's go to Jeff in Charlotte, who was at the first game at the stadium ever. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, Judge. Good. Yes, guys. Good morning. I appreciate you having me on. My first memory was this. My folks were season ticket holders from day one. And I remember when the stadium was getting ready to open up, my father told me they were going to do something that was totally unheard of for sports at that time. They were going to buy tickets in the club level. And then the other thing, on the actual day of the game, my parents had enough foresight to leave early and did not get caught in the traffic. And remember walking into the stadium with my best friend, and we looked at each other and looked at this place and said, oh my gosh, this place is absolutely gorgeous compared to the dump of the rock pile. Then, of course, we're there sitting down in the very first play of the game. Herb Mulkey of the Redskins returns a kickoff probably about 103 yards in the very first play of the new stadium for a touchdown. And then the other memory was going fast forward, I believe it was the 1990 season, a Sunday night game. We were playing the Raiders. We were behind going into the fourth quarter. 2 things happened. I believe it was Steve Tasker blocked a punt, and James Williams picked up the ball and ran for a touchdown, or it might have been vice versa, and then Nate Odom stole the ball. And that was really one of the key aspects, I think, of our first Super Bowl season. And the crowd that night, of course, it was a Sunday night game, and I believe that the game was on TNT, national TV, and the place was just electric.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I'll hang up, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. No, great memories. Thanks for the call, Jeff. I was looking back at that Bills game, the first game of the season, but you triggered something for me with Odom's taking back a touchdown. I think if I had been going to games in the 90s, I would have loved Nate Odoms. Whenever I see clips of him watching back, I used to own the 91 Bills yearbook that I watched probably 1,000 times as a kid. And with him with the giant shoulder pads always running away from people. I mean, he only had, 2-3 touchdowns as a Bill? Felt like more. 9 interceptions in 93, by the way. Good stuff. John, you were also at the first game of the stadium?
Yes. Yeah, that was one of my first games. It was this new stadium. My first game was at the rockpile, of course, but been to many games there. One of my favorite ones was the Roland Hooks game, the comeback game where they scored 3 touchdowns there at the end to win. Been to a bunch of playoff games, but just waiting for the new stadium to come so I can go to all 3 of them. Yeah.
Would you remember what your first Bills game in general would have been, the one at the rockpile?
Yeah, at the rockpile. It was against the Raiders. I really don't remember who won. I think I was like 9 years old. My dad took me, so. All
right.
Kind of cool now to take my kids, That was a lot of fun.
Definitely. Thanks, John, for the call.
Yep, have a good day.
You too. It would be tough to narrow down. I'm looking at Bills Raiders history, and they played twice in 1960, twice in 61, twice in 62. I'm assuming they were in the same division. So they would have played here like every year during the rockpile years, at least until 69. So there might have been like 3-4 years in the stadium at the rockpile where that didn't happen. That's a couple times now that I'm not disputing any of this, like what the state of the rock pile was at the end there. But I've heard a couple people now in like a week refer to it as a dump at the end. And that this new this new stadium, the Rich Stadium when it opened, was a palace in comparison. Are we going to look back on this stadium in that way? I don't think we will, right?
I don't think
not
so.
Not into that. It might depend. It's going to depend how blown away everybody is by the new stadium. Because when you compare them in that way, it might feel more like that. But there's so many more memories at this stadium compared to the last stadium that, you might not hear people put it that way.
Yeah, and the memories of late have all been so, mostly all been so positive, and like everything's been great here for the most part for the last 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that will probably go a long way in making people feel a little more nostalgic towards the old building.
He dresses it up a little bit.
But I do think when you get in that new stadium, once people get in there, you'll probably be like, oh, this is a whole new world.
This is a whole nother ball game.
We had no idea what we were missing out on. And it might, like you said, retroactively make you think like, wow, the old Highmark was a dump compared to this because we're in a palace now. But
right.
I think Highmark's fine. It's good. It's great. I love it. It's our stadium. I don't know that we'll ever look down upon it because of what I don't think it'll ever be
memories.
A negative connotation surrounding that stadium.
Yeah, too many memories, and also this fan base is more about the game on the field. Right? Like some markets, Atlanta, I feel like is one of these. LA, where the place has got to have all these amenities and it's got to be like a palace because it's more, a lot of those fans are going to want more than just football.
Right.
And here, everyone's just standing throughout the whole game, and if the game's on and the Bills win, then generally that's a good day at the stadium. Dennis in Lockport is next up. What's up, Dennis?
Hey guys, I've seen them from the rock pile to the Ralph. Obviously, the Miami game when we tore down the goalpost and the greatest comeback were great things. But there's 2 memorable moments as a kid and growing up being a Bills fan. We never missed a game. My mom would not let us miss a game. She's a diehard Bills fan. One of the most memorable is watching Bruce Smith lining up to take out Barry Sanders, and Barry stopped on a dime and turned direction, and Bruce didn't even know what happened. He was gone. And I was like, man, I became a Barry Sanders fan that day.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the best memories I have, and it was the very last game. The crew, our Super Bowl crew there, Kelly, Smith, all of them were playing here. It was a Kansas City game. To this day, my mom has not told me how she knew John Butler. But I called up and made arrangements so we can go to the game. And I asked if we can meet the players. They said, come on Saturday. We went there. They were doing their walkthrough. Kelly and all of them signed the ball. And Bruce Smith did a solid for my mom. Andre Reed wouldn't sign the ball unless he was paid. And Bruce grabbed him and says, that lady's been watching us longer than you've ever played here. Sign the ball. And we've got that football to this day with all those Hall of Famers and that crew on it. And then that was the last time that whole crew was together ever.
Yeah, 96 finale against, they won 20-9. Does that sound right?
Yep.
All right. Got that in front of me. Thanks, Dennis, for the call. The Bills that day scored, there was a lot of field goals that day. Two late touchdowns. Kelly to Quinn early at the end there. And then you're right, that's it. They go to play the Jaguars in the playoffs. Joe Beamer from down the hall, WBEN, that's a playoff game, said that was his first game that he remembers. And that's it. Kelly gets knocked out and it's over for that whole era. 803-0550 is the phone number. Let's go to John in Buffalo next. What's up, John?
Hey, how you doing, guys? I got one memory that stands out from the rock pile. I was 6 years old, first game I ever went to, 1967. I have the ticket stub and the program from that, and I have everyone going forward. I've only missed 3 games since 1967.
Do you know do you remember? Do you know the 3 games?
What I missed?
Yeah. If there's only 3.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, there was. Well, two people passed away in my family, so it's kind of hard to forget those.
Sure, sorry about that.
One was a Pittsburgh game, one was a Miami game, and there was one where I had a job that they made me live in train in Jacksonville, so I missed the first game of the season the one year.
Gotcha.
That was not happy.
Okay,
but the Bills won on September 12th, 1967, 20-10 against the Jets. But the biggest moment in the whole history of all that stuff is the 51-3 game.
Sure.
I was sitting there at halftime with my dad, who was like 80 at the time, and I'm like, "We're going to the freaking Super Bowl! Holy shit! Are you kidding me?" And it was unbelievable. Where everybody was like, could we just make the time run out of here and get out of here and go to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
But that and the other one was I had the season tickets forever. I still do. I'm going Saturday to get my new seat license, and it was the greatest comeback game. Everybody got up after the 35-3, and I'm yelling at them, "You guys suck! You're not really fans. Go home. Don't come back. I don't want to see you next year. We're going to win this game." And my buddy's like, "What are you, drunk?" And I'm like, "Somebody's got to cheer for us." And about 25, 30 people sat back down, and after the game, they said, "Man, you made us feel bad, so we stayed, and thank you."
Yeah.
you made us feel guilty. But unbelievable moments in that stadium. It was just one thrill after another through the 90s, and hopefully we get that duplicated with the Super Bowl in the next year or two.
Yeah. Thanks, John, for the call. I love that you still have the program from 67. Bills and it's Namath. That's Namath and the Jets. And the Jets, I'm looking at that box score right now. This is 67. This is so long ago. The Bills logo on Pro Football Reference is a football. I've seen this logo before, but I don't think they ever used it. It's a football with a buffalo inside and then like a cartoon Bills player on like the bottom right.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
With the standing buffalo. I like that logo a lot. The Jets were up 17-0 in the third quarter of this game, and the Bills came back to win 20-17. So you get your mini comeback game there in 67. Let's go to Carl in Niagara Falls. What's up, Carl?
Hey, how you doing, my friend? Good morning.
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good. Calling about my first and best memory in the stadium would have been 1988 November when the Bills beat the Jets for their first AFC East championship. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the last time in the NFL the fans could rush the field and throw down the goalposts, and it was pretty incredible. As a 13-year-old kid, kind of got me hooked on the NFL from there. I get goosebumps thinking about it. To be honest with you, it was incredible. You just sat there and watched.
Okay, I was gonna say you didn't run on the field. You would have stayed there and watched that part of it.
Yeah, we had end zone seats too, and I remember just sitting there with my stepdad, and we just watched like the whole thing, and watch the goalposts come down, and it was special.
How many people? I could look at pictures and see this. How many people were doing that? Like what percentage of fans were on the field versus like in the stands watching all the fans on the field?
I want to say it had to be close to half.
We're still in the stands?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the field was pretty full.
Right.
And they were climbing the goalposts, and they started to crumble, and they were yanking them down, and it was awesome. I was 13, and I was already a huge fan of football in the NFL, but that was like, wow, And then actually my next game, my sister's boyfriend took me to the first AFC East championship against the Raiders. So those are my first 2 games, man, and I was like, wow, this is great. It's always going to be like this.
Yeah, you can't beat that. Thanks, Carl, for the call. That is the one thing that I will admit I am definitely jealous of. Like if you are like me growing up in the drought era, like we reflect, it's a badge of honor that you make it through that as a fan.
Right.
But listen to me talk about 17-12 Bills-Vikings with Brad Johnson and J.P. Lossman, or the Tyrod against Carson Palmer in the Cardinals. Like,
it doesn't hold the same weight.
No, I mean there are more classic games if you were 12, 13, 14 years old in the late 80s and in the 90s by far. Or if this is going to be kids that are like 12, 13, 14 right now.
Right.
Or in the last couple of years. How many fans that are that age now, like their first game was the New England playoff game?
Yeah.
Or was, other classic games Allen and the Bills have put together at the stadium. They kind of bludgeon teams, though.
They do a lot of that.
That's the thing. It's like that memory there against the Dolphins. That is, part of that is the Dolphins had just beat the Bills down for so long that it's kind of a changing of the guard, which is part of why that memory is so great. There's no changing of the guard, really. The Bills just took the division and haven't relented since. So when you expect them to be dominant like that, it's a little bit different. You have the perfect game, though, for that for sure. What's second? If that is easily the number one game to be in the stadium during the Josh Allen era, what is second?
That's a really good question.
What's the second best? Might not be an easy answer. You had your Packers Sunday night idea. I might not put that number 2.
Right.
I remember being frustrated in that game.
Yeah.
They won it. That's where you're spoiled by this team. That was a Sunday night game against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They were winning in the second half, and I was mad because they didn't look good.
Right.
Joe Burrow and quarterback, kind of equivalent